Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, where business insight meets startup innovation. And now, please give a warm welcome for your host, Brian Sparks!
Bring it, heat.
Oh my goodness.
You all need to sit down. All right, wonderful. Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact. I'm your host, Brian Sparks. The purpose of this show is to have honest conversations about what it takes to build great businesses and communities so that you can make an impact in your own. Brian, we took a couple weeks off and we're back, and you didn't miss a beat. I mean, you rock it.
I gotta say, I really missed being here. You know, in fact, I missed it so much that I forgot we weren't recording last week and showed up. Oh, yeah, I had the whole place lit up, and then I got the text message from you. Oh, by the way, remember, we're not recording this week. So.
You're game ready. You stay ready.
I was game ready. I was here.
Yeah, you don't need to get ready because you stay ready. I love it.
Yeah. Every week, man. I'm just here to support you and our amazing guests, and of course our amazing audience.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have fun today. We got Jason and Gasper in the house. Good to see you too.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
So I was saying earlier, Brian, I feel like we're really moving up in the world because Jason brought in his agent. We'll call him Anthony, but we all know Anthony. And
oh yeah, Anthony's behind me.
And
here.
Gasper flew in for the day for the show.
What's up, everybody?
He's back there. We'll chat with him in a little bit. But I want to thank Gasper and Jason for coming in today. Jason, we met for the first time. We've been in the same ecosystem for a while, but we met for the first time. I think I just randomly jumped in your car the other day at an event to take me down the street in San Francisco. But tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you are geeking out on nowadays.
Yeah, well, I'm Jason Miles. I'm the founder and managing partner of Amenti Capital Partners. We're an emerging venture firm focused on digital ecosystems. So these are things that will be future building for sustainability, for efficiency, et cetera, And the first sector that I'm focused on is connected mobility.
And we're going to talk a little bit about connected mobility because that brings a big smile to your face. Even when we were in the car the other day and you were telling me all about partnerships and your time with Volvo, you lit up when you came to this. So we'll definitely tap into that. Jasper, good to see you, buddy. We've been chatting online. Now good to see you.
But Brian, I got to jump in here. You called him Jasper just now. I don't think that's actually.
Oh my God!
Yeah, listen, that's my whole life. It's been like that. Casper, Jasper.
Did I do it twice?
No, just once.
Just the one time.
Once.
But I figured we may as well just call it out right away.
I appreciate that.
Well, listen,
I don't want it to get awkward.
No, it's better than like my mom and my parents. Like, you know how they always like call you by your brother's name or your sister's name. So you were in the ballpark there.
Okay, all right. I gotta get used to that. Okay, so Gasper, we've been chatting a little bit about what you're working on for the last few months. Introduce yourself. Please don't say Jasper to our audience about what you're working on.
Yeah, no. So my name's David. No, I'm just kidding. No, my name's Gasper Chiaramonte. I'm the CEO of Novella AI. We are essentially creating a nonlinear cloud-based video editing solution for content creators and marketers and anyone that wants to, create stories to work together seamlessly. That's it.
Simple.
Basically it. Simple.
And we're going to geek off that because the reason why you do this, what you said earlier, was all about collaboration, telling stories. Why that? Because again, that is my wheelhouse. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I grew up, editing at 13 years old. I was very, very young when I got into it. And, no one, there was no YouTube. It was only Hollywood. And so at 16, I had my sights set on Hollywood, and that was my trajectory. And during that time period, I always would go back and forth between YouTube and just uploading things for fun. And now what we've seen is YouTube and user-generated content is now competing with Hollywood in a very, very significant way. But the problem is they're missing out on the collaborative ecosystem that has made Hollywood what it is today. It's really a team sport in Hollywood. You get different perspectives, different points of view, and that's how we create the content that we do. And so I selfishly wanted that for myself in the YouTube space when I would go there without the overhead costs. Yeah, I was just at the office the other day. It's about $800,000 of back end hardware to kind of build these giant ecosystems, and that's not even including the HVAC systems to run those server rooms to have that kind of collaboration. So I was like, hey, let's bring the software to where all the footage is being stored, which is in the cloud.
Now, you're going to be speaking from a high level of editing. We're going to talk about your experience, but really what the product and the service that you're producing is for the everyday content creator, right? Just to kind of give it contrast, that's who you will be talking about, even though your experience is so exhaustive and you've got some great stories.
No, for me, when I look at the content creator space right now and who's creating videos, it's kind of everyone. Video over time has become the preferred method of communication. So when we think about what it has now evolved into, everyone kind of needs to be an editor. But it's also sometimes a burden when you're just doing it by yourself. Just being able to bounce ideas off of someone, or even if you're a content owner and you want to hand it off to another editor. We had, someone reach out to us and was like, hey, when can I get your solution? I have someone that's editing, halfway across the world. He's my best friend, and we just want to have this all-in-one solution so we don't have to juggle all these disconnected tools, and that's kind of what we're really focused on doing.
Okay, I got more questions. I want to get to Jason, but before we get to Jason, it sounds like even though the content creator could use this on from their laptop at home, this could also be used by enterprise, where it's like now teams could use this and really build out some amazing productions, just as the individual could.
Yeah, correct. So we're building this to scale up to an enterprise level eventually. We really want to focus on the smaller teams, those 1 or 2 individuals. And then over time, as we get more and more features, we're going to probably appeal to my friends, who are in that enterprise space, who are performing at the highest levels. And it really doesn't take a lot to get to us if you build the product correctly from the beginning. For high-end editors, it's all about muscle memory and just being able to fluidly work. But after that, we actually want easier tools as well. I don't want to have to be looking on YouTube University to figure out the software. So we even like the intuitive nature of what we're kind of seeing in that space of user-generated content tools.
Okay, yeah. Well, so we'll unwrap that, what that looks like, what our audience can kind of compare it to, what's your unique selling proposition, how you're going to go to market, but more importantly, the founder fit. You've got a great story. We'll dive into that. Jason, I want to kind of come back to you.
Yeah.
What you're working on now is kind of a lifetime culmination of a lot of different things you've been involved with. We were in the car maybe for like 10 minutes, and you gave me your life story in a very precise and concise manner. How did you really land in the space that you're in now? But let's start this. Let's kind of start from the end first.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about what you're doing now in a very precise way, and then we'll unwrap it, because I think it's really unique how you've put this all together, and then what makes you unique in what you're doing now is from your
Sure. Yeah. So let me define connected mobility first, right? So connected mobility is all of the software that goes on top of the emerging vehicles that are out there. So from drones to cars to electric trains and all of the things that we hear about every day, from Teslas to Waymo to Uber stacks. It's the software layer on top of all of those vehicles. So there's 4 main pillars, right? There's financial technology, there's data and AI infrastructure. There's what I call hyper logistics or smart infrastructure. It's kind of like an IoT, Internet of Things. And then the 4th area are sustainable energy systems. So if you combine those 4 pillars, you get what I call connected mobility. So that is I would call it the framework for building a future emerging transportation network where all of the vehicles are talking to each other. The vehicles are speaking to the infrastructure or the built environments around them. And of course, the people are communicating with the vehicles. So what you get from that is a fully seamless, transparent network, and it can be global, it can be local, right? But this is kind of what we need if we're going to have all of the things that we'd like for sustainability, for transparency, for communication in the future. And there are startups that are all over the world that are addressing small pinpointed problems, but eventually there's going to be a huge network.
So is this because we're moving towards autonomous vehicles, and that, with the autonomous vehicles, there needs to be more public safety assurance, and with all this communication going on through these pillars, this is what will kind of validate the safety and the move forward? Is that
Yeah. You can think about it as a new internet, okay, where the vehicles and the communication amongst the vehicles and the infrastructure around them are creating a new network of communication, short form communication. Mm-hmm. So, autonomous vehicles are one type, right? But drones above our head are also a form of autonomous vehicles. Mm-hmm. At the port, there are robots doing everything at the port that humans used to do, right? Mm-hmm. Those are autonomous vehicles. So if you think about all of this activity, that's what you need, is a software layer that can have a full communication, so you can track something from the time you press the button on Amazon all the way until it gets to your house, right? Or from the time a supplier needs a tire for a car all the way until it gets to the final point of manufacturing.
Okay. And so this is your market. This is your space.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about now what you are bringing to this space in order to see this continue to scale.
Yeah, so I led fintech venture investing for Volvo Group for about 4 years, and they brought me in specifically for what we call embedded finance. Okay, so that's embedding financial technologies into commercial vehicle networks. So a truck could then pay its toll electronically, it could get its fuel electronically, et cetera, et cetera. And as I was kind of doing that, I thought about this whole global connected ecosystem that's being developed. And I noticed that most of the activity was happening at the very early stages of company development, so pre-seed, seed. But the corporations that are building the emerging networks are all focused at kind of the later stages, right? Series D, Series E. So there's a gap there. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to go out and kind of fill that gap by finding those emerging technology companies at the earliest stages of development.
So anyone who's listening right now, and again, I'm trying to get clarity around this. Yep. Anyone who's listening right now who is a startup in this particular space,
yes,
you are looking to, one, possibly provide capital,
yes,
and there's this partnership component to it as well. Am I kind of summarizing that? If it's, if I'm speaking for our audience who's listening.
Yes, definitely. So those 4 pillars, mm-hmm, startups can operate in each of those 4. But what's happening right now is often the startups are only in their particular pillar. So a financial technology company might have some insight into what a data AI platform is doing, but they're very focused on payments technology, right? The same thing for a smart infrastructure or a logistics company. They're very focused on the movement of a good or a passenger. So mm-hmm, they don't communicate very well with the financial technology partner. Even though, as you can see, right, if you think about it to the end, all of these things have to be seamless in order for the network to work. So startups that are focused on those 4 pillars, but don't feel as if they have a home, they can come to Amenti Partners, and we can kind of help them find their partner within that ecosystem and also provide some capital.
So you're building out an ecosystem of resources to help these startups from multiple levels of capital, whether it be social capital, intellectual capital, financial capital. You're really working on it. So I have to leap again a little bit forward, and then we'll go back. I know I keep saying that, but you have a connected mobility event coming up. And if anyone who's listening to this, who are interested in this space as a whole or interested in one of those 4 pillars, what can they expect from this very unique event that you have going? Is it going to be, when is this?
It's October 23rd. Okay. It'll be in Oakland at a space called Commune, which is a very eco-friendly building that is in downtown Oakland. And what they can expect are people that think in the same manner, like-minded individuals coming together that want to discuss the future of mobility and transportation. But software, the software layer, not necessarily building the vehicles themselves, but how you manage and follow these vehicles.
So is there going to be there'll be clearly the networking aspect to it.
Yeah.
Are you going to have some speakers there giving insights?
We'll have some speakers. We'll have a few startups presenting their ideas and their platforms. Limited slots, but this will be the first of what I envision as a series of connected mobility events focused on one or more areas of connected mobility.
Okay, and the day of this show, I will put that link in the LinkedIn post so that people can get their registration or their tickets there.
Very good.
So those of you listening, you can find the link in my LinkedIn in the description when I post it, and you see these two wonderful guys sitting with me. Anthony, you won't be on the post, but good to see you, Anthony of Ignite. You brought in Jason today, but I want to thank you for being here as well. You're kind of in the background, but you guys had a great event. That's where Jason and I met for the first time.
That's right.
You had the AI Infra. You got another one coming up in March. Is that correct?
In April.
In April, okay. So if you weren't in the Bay Area, if you weren't at the event this past week, check it out in April. That's going to be amazing. Jason, let's talk a little bit about what kind of brought you up to this. You talked a little bit about being involved with Volvo, but you also have a lot of experience in partnerships. And you're kind of now seeing the landscape of this connected mobility and putting that experience to use by connecting the dots and being a more rich resource for potential startups and partnerships moving forward.
Yeah.
Give us a little run up in terms of your experience and what led to this big view strategy of the market. Is that a big question?
It's a good question. So I began my career as an investment banker. I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. After graduating from Morehouse, I went into the investment banking field and I started raising money for private companies. This was back during the dot-com era. What I found was that most of the companies I was representing had something to do with what we used to call financial services vertical software, and now we call it fintech. Okay, so this is before Bitcoin and crypto and all those things have popped up. So over the years, I found that I've worked with a lot of financial services companies, either raising money for them, before or during the financial crisis. I combined Countrywide and Bank of America, so I learned a lot more about kind of the financial services industry and some of the challenges. And what I was finding, I guess circa 2012, 2013, was that financial technology, while it was disruptive for traditional financial services companies, the banks, the insurance companies that we know about, it was also a disruptive technology for other industries, media being one of them, right? Healthcare being another. Transportation being the one that I wanted to focus on. The thing that all three of those industries have in common is that they all have invisible transactions. So we as people, we use these industries to our advantage, but we don't necessarily recognize how often, how much data, right? How much it's costing us. We all have a subscription to multiple media platforms. If we get sick, we go to the hospital. We don't really care about the insurance transactions. We just want to get better, right? I zeroed in on transportation because that had the most amount of transactions, the most impact on our human interactions. People have been moving goods in themselves since the beginning of man. And it had the most room for digital transformation over what I see as the next 40 years of opportunity.
Nice. So I heard one thing. You've got a lot of experience with raising.
Yep.
Now, again, let's think from the perspective of our audience who is listening. Again, a lot of founders, a lot of VC. I mean, this is raising season, if you ask me.
Yeah.
VCs are out raising as well. In your experience now and in the past, what are some high levels in terms of building relationships that you've kind of deployed?
Yeah.
Not to get too technical, right? But like how you're doing this event, you're partnering with people.
Yeah.
Can you give some general insights on like what does it take to be a good person who raises?
Yeah, no, that is actually a question for the ages.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to two things: preparation and predictability. Okay. So the preparation side is for me, right, I like it when a startup has shown me that they've done as much work as they possibly can to get me to invest in their company. That means having a data room set up or having their presentation sharp or anything that can signal to me that you are preparing for your next phase and that I am just a conduit or helping you get to the next phase. Those things are extremely attractive.
I love that. And again, this is for, entertainment purposes, but these are insights that give you kind of a general bucket where to begin, right? We're not telling you what to put in that bucket. We're not telling you what to put in the data room. But these are things that you need to have. And as you do that research, you do your due diligence, you're going to get the attention of those who invest.
That's right.
I want to integrate Gasper into this at this point. Yeah. Gasper, you're in the process of building out your life's work. Yeah. Pretty much like Jason is doing as well. Right. And you've developed Novella. Tell us a little bit more about where this idea came from. I know you gave us an overview of the company, but let's back up a little bit with you. What is this the culmination of? Because you have a lot of history in this space.
For me, it goes back to, again, when I was that 13-year-old kid in his room using Adobe Premiere 1.5 for the first time, right? When you look at the life cycle of video editing applications or all applications, you'll always see leaps. And when you have those leaps, usually the outcome is some form of democratization of something, right? So Adobe Premiere democratized single user editing. Prior to that, it was, Avid Media Composer. That was the first nonlinear editing system. So when I say nonlinear editing system, back in the early, let's say, I'm trying to remember when film first started, but you used to actually cut film physically. And you would have to tape it together, right? And so our advisor, Michael Phillips, he was part of the team that digitized filmmaking to where you could start editing in a nonlinear fashion. And go ahead.
Just for some insight for our viewers, because you blew past that name really quick, and in the level of your experience, Michael Phillips, give us.
Yeah, so Michael Phillips is like the Michael Jordan of these products. I'm really, really lucky to have him. Like, I learned about a lot of the things that he did while I was in film school. He was actually an advisor to my university. And essentially, when you look at all television and film today, it came from him, and his team over at over at Avid. And he was an editor as well. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is, that company early on, they knew it was important to get the creatives involved in constructing these applications. And that is what I think is missing today. It's a lot of people, no disrespect, from Silicon Valley that just don't understand the space and don't understand the creator. A lot of people, when they come to these applications, they say, oh, it's SaaS, it's software as a service. I don't think that at all. I think it's software as a necessity. I think when you are an artist creating work, it's like going up to a painter and selling him a canvas and saying, hey, this is just a service. It's like, no, that's an extension of who I am. And so when you construct these applications, you have to have that care and that mindset involved. And for me, that's what I was looking to do, is like, take what I've learned over the years and really, push it to that next level, right? What's the next step in democratization? I think it's giving people the kind of collaboration we have in Hollywood at a lower price point. It's too expensive for your YouTuber or for your content creator, but cloud services now, you talk about sustainability, it's a lot, less power intensive, right? When I'm in my bedroom, I'm like blasting the AC because these computers are hot, When you have everything up in the cloud, you're not having to update your computer all the time. Because that's the other thing. The file sizes, they're just getting bigger. We're in 4K land, but now we're in 8K land because that's going to be, more preferred for AR and VR. And so the costs continue to increase as technology advances. You have to spend the money to keep up with it. But when you have it in the cloud, you have that power, you have that sustainability, and then you have the ability to connect with so many different people that you might have never connected with before. And so that's the thing I really wanted to do is bring to people what I've enjoyed so much in Hollywood, now to everyone else.
So how did you, I want to eventually get to that experience in Hollywood, but I want to go back to that 13-year-old that you described, and you smile. There was that moment where you discovered editing.
Yeah.
You were just in that, it took you to a creative land. Tell me about those initial experiences, because I think the reason why I'm asking this is if you're a founder and you have that initial experience where you go, I love this. Founder fit and passion will get you through the pain of startup. And you have just immersed yourself in this world. So go back to that beginning.
Yeah, for me, when I caught the bug for editing, it was, to me, a different language. It was another way of speaking. For me, I'm very, very comfortable with footage. It's like those are the words I use to express what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And you can tell stories, I think, almost in a more impactful way. When you understand the storytelling process with audio and video, you could really bring people to a perspective or to a different world. And then also just understanding storytelling at a young age and how powerful that is. Like, seeing the joy on people's faces when they're just learning about a new topic. That's the other thing I loved at an early age, was the joy in letting other people discover something, right? Because that's what good storytelling is. Like, everyone throws out the the word, hey, you got to be a good storyteller. What does storytelling really encompass? You need to, bring people through a journey of discovery. You need to have conflict and resolution. And, for me, I think the other thing is themes. Like, themes are a big thing. And I think for companies, they should start thinking that way. I'll give you an example. Have you ever heard of the show called Chernobyl on HBO? Have you ever heard that show? So this is a show about Chernobyl, right? If I were to ask you what's it about, it's the natural disaster during the Soviet Union. It's not about that at all. It's about the cost of lies. And that, in a way, like, informs your audience of, like, real human emotions. Like, there's probably a lot of that going on in business. Like, what are the costs of lies in Enron, right? Like, it extends out. And so seeing the power of storytelling and knowing that editing is a big component of that, especially with video and audio, I was hooked.
You were hooked. You just said something very interesting, is you took these familiar stories and you began with a pain point, right? Because a lie is a pain.
Yes.
Right. So with this experience, I want to make a leap now again for our audience. Do you feel that this type of storytelling, this type of narrative bodes well as you start to tell your story about Novella and other startups that are looking to tell their story about what problem they want to solve? Are there what's the word I'm looking for? Are there some hacks here in terms of storytelling and getting funding?
Yes.
Right. I'll come to you, Jason, but Gasper, go ahead.
Yeah. So when I first started this, one thing I loved about tech right out the gate is that there was no gatekeeper. It's just, you have an idea, you have a vision, you could go execute that, and you could bring really smart people together that are also passionate about building great products, and you could just start going. And so the one thing that I wanted to do immediately was to do a crowdfunding campaign. And when we talked to WeFunder, they were like, hey, you need to have a video. We raised $350,000 on that video. That is powerful, where I could express my idea and say, hey, this is what I see the future being. And you have customers like buying into this. It's not even investors. It's other people that are like contacting me like, oh my God, I want this product. That's the power of a video if you're a startup founder, is that you don't have to go out and raise, with VC firms and angels. You could use these crowdfunding sites and you could get a lot of traction right out the gate if you construct the video appropriately.
My gears are turning right now. Brian, go ahead.
I just want to chime in on that very last statement. If you construct a video appropriately.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest challenge that most everybody faces, right? You have somebody that spent a lifetime in this industry and you have an idea of what that means. But I think most content creators, most business startup type people don't have any idea how to tell stories.
Correct. And I think when it comes to our application, that is also the power of collaboration, where you could be the content owner or someone that needs content to be produced, and you could work with someone in a seamless way, building out your story with someone else who is really well versed in that. I always say, I want to work with the best of the best in anything I do, right? So I'm not going to go out there and go on ChatGPT and try to figure out how to code. Like one of my best friends, JJ, he's doing our front end engineering. He's been building applications as long as I've been editing for him. We went to college together, and I trust him to build that application. And I think if you are a startup founder that wants to, get into video, you just need to find someone that will help you tell that story as well.
Brian and Gasper, I happen to know somebody who is a communication strategist that can help with that gap.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's this, Brian?
Well, I will leave the link in the description to Brian Sparks, if any of you have ever heard of him.
Where you want to go, Brian?
I love it.
Do that for you?
That was that. We did it there, right on time, Brian. Perfect.
Hey, now that I've got your attention, can we take a little break?
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, take us to break, and we will be right back.
Thank you. And
all right, we're back again. All right, that break almost got out of control. We're back with Jason and Gasper. Gasper, you were talking a lot about, again, storytelling, the importance of that. I still haven't got to now your experience, but during the break, you had a question that kind of pivoted back to Jason about drones, and we're all about jumping around here on the show. So let's take that energy. You had a question, and I'll go ahead. I'll let you lead it with Jason.
Yeah. So I love flying drones. It was a hobby of mine. And the things that I've always been worried about when flying these drones is like, who else is in the air? Where can I fly, right? This is a big thing in the drone community. You want to be compliant. Is some of the technology that you're working on focuses on creating like a standardization where I could, have my drone communicate with other objects, buildings? Yeah. Like, is that what it is?
You're going right down the correct path. There will be multiple applications for every vehicle type, right? A drone for consumer use or for photography, right, has the same issues as a drone that is scanning a farm, right, for security purposes. As long as there is something that is communicating information, i.e. the device, to a building, a person, or another device, that falls into connected mobility. So in the future, the devices speaking to themselves will have a huge safety component to it. It'll have a huge transaction and data component to it, right? Because you have to know where things are, right? You don't want drones crashing into each other.
I can't tell you how many times I crash these drones.
Right? You don't want the drone crashing into a plane or going too high, absolutely, or a plane coming in too low. The best way for them to communicate is short distance communication, right?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it. So, again, there's a big infrastructure going on right now in terms of this connected mobility. How new is this category? Because I haven't really paid much attention myself before chatting with you.
Yeah.
Is this category design just really fresh, or is this something that's been around? What's kind of been the evolution of this category, and then where do you see it going next? I know we're double clicking on that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's a new category in the way that I've defined it. I think I've coined the phrase connected mobility. I think I've coined the phrase vehicle as a device. So a vehicle becoming the same as your smartphone. But the concept of connecting multiple disparate vehicle types is not brand new, right? They're just in particular use cases or in particular categories. So there's, car-to-car communications that are happening. There's in-vehicle communication. And whenever someone gets into a rental car, you can connect your Apple CarPlay. That's a form of connected mobility. Mm-hmm. So the cycle has been that the auto manufacturers, or the original equipment manufacturers as they call them, started out as the transportation provider. So let's go way back to Ford and Volvo and the companies that have been around for 150 years now. Mm-hmm. Technology companies started to emerge, and they provided the data, right? So if you think about the old school car companies and auto manufacturers and plane manufacturers started to get combined with the Googles and the Apples and the IBMs of the world, Okay. But they were still operating in their particular silos. What happened over the last 20 years or so was that those two started to merge, and you had a Tesla that popped out. Right. I mean, a lot of folks say Tesla is a software company. It's not a car company. You know, Elon might not agree with that depending on what you're talking to him about. But in the future, you're going to have even more convergence between the two, where technology companies are going to become the transportation companies, i.e. Waymo, right? And the transportation companies are going to become technology companies, i.e., you know, any company trying to create an EV now.
This is an entire new frontier in terms of communication. What do you see is emerging as some great ideas and some pain points that are possible to be solved now? I mean, again, that's kind of a broad question, but what has really interested you in the last few months?
There's so much happening. So there's a great company. Can I mention names of companies?
Yeah, man.
Okay, there's a great company
this is not a paid sponsorship.
Yeah, right. There's a great company that I really love called Atmo, and they are providing an AI platform for weather prediction. Okay, someone might say, how does AI for weather prediction, you know, correlate with mobility? Well, if you don't know what the weather's going to be like, it's kind of hard to launch a rocket, right? It's kind of hard to deliver farming and agriculture, right, for these massive farms that are across the world delivering the things that we need every day, right? So they're able to get just a little bit higher predictability in the weather, right? So that's a company I'm really excited about. So if you take it to that edge, you see that there are thousands of companies that are affiliated or associated with this ecosystem that's being developed. And yeah, I'm looking for them, looking for more.
I'm seeing where if you can get that edge in, I mean, even weather predictability, the allocation of resources become more predictable, and we're not wasting so much of the natural resources. So I can see where you're going with this.
That's right.
I want to kind of pivot back to Gasper. That was a great question. We could have gone down the rabbit hole with that one, but I want you to kind of finish up with that again, early stages of your life, because as you kind of, you know, immersed yourself in that as a teenager, you had then a very unique experience growing up. You got yourself into partnerships. You had a great teacher, as you just mentioned. You've had mentors. What has kind of been your journey, much like Jason's, up through the media experience? Tell us a little bit about that.
Like going from 13 years old to working in Hollywood?
Yeah, I want to hear it, man.
You want to hear that?
I think that Genesis will kind of highlight what it takes to position yourself for success.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
It's perseverance. Like, I remember, I think I saw American Idol air the first season, and that's when I got the idea, seeing the credits, that, oh, editing is actually a job, because I was just doing it for fun because I loved it. And I said it out loud to a guidance counselor. I was like, hey, I think I want to go to college for editing. Now, again, this is at a time when there was no YouTube, and this is a small town in New Jersey. And they were like, come on, your dad's a HVAC repairman. Don't you want to do that instead? And I was just stubborn. I was really stubborn. I was like, no, I think I could do this. And you know what? I know I can. And so it was really just like doubling down on yourself and really just pushing the limits of what you think you could do. Because I didn't know I could edit in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is, over the course of, you know, several years, you just start building your knowledge and your skill level and your understanding of story, and also just being able to communicate with people in the room and being a good collaborator. Like, sometimes collaboration we have to remember, it's this two-way conversation. You know, I'm hired because someone else has a vision and I need to execute that vision for them, right? And over time, I got to the point where now I was editing on American Idol, that I did achieve that goal, but it was, you know, years and years of not stopping, and you just have to keep moving forward. And I think for me now, going into this venture, I have that muscle memory where I'm just not going to stop. You know, I just got to keep on moving forward. And I think a lot of startup founders just need to probably hear that, because that's been my North Star this whole time.
Well, I think as investors, we look for, again, that founder fit. And I wanted to highlight that. And again, Jason, we will walk through that with your experience. Yeah. Is that who we have, Brian, who we have here in the studio today, are people with the pedigree to do well. Yeah. I know Novella is going to do well because there's founder fit. I know, Jason, your fund and what you've got going, your event, your ecosystem, everything that you're pouring into this is going to do well because you have the pedigree. Right. And I think, again, whether you're building a company and you have to ask yourself, do I have what it takes to do this? It just can't be seen as like, oh, I see an opportunity. It has to be something that aligns with your history.
I just also think that what I'm hearing is a deep belief and passion in what they're doing, right? So there's that idea that they're going to have that perseverance, but it's also just this deep working knowledge of the industry and the thing that you're building.
Yeah, we had Sherry DeVille in here a few months ago, and I asked her what it took to be a good leader. I'll never forget this. I asked her what it took to kind of become a good leader, and she course corrected me. She says, I never set out to be a good leader. And I saw her as one. She says, I set out to solve a problem. And when you set out to solve a problem, you don't put the pressure on yourself to compete with others. You're really competing with yourself, and that passion is driving you forward. And that was a complete reframe for me. Because in order to find the collaborations, you're looking for resources to solve a problem. If you're out just looking to be that leader and get the acknowledgement, then your resources become actually your competition. Yeah. And you put yourself back in that silo. Oh, Brian, that was good. Sometimes I amaze myself. Where's my theme music?
I'm sitting here taking notes on this show. Usually I don't take notes, but I'm like taking notes this week.
That was good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, you guys are really bringing it this week. Thank you.
Yeah, Gasper, talk a little bit about. So you landed on American Idol, and then what were some of your other unique experiences that kind of fed into building that muscle memory that you talked about that were really unique, that high level? And what were those moments for you that you said, wow, I'm playing this game at a high level?
Like what projects when I really started to feel confident?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I'm never confident. Like every single project is new. I think when you get into the world of storytelling and telling human stories, like you're going to understand the language of cinema, of like, a good show open. Like that's one of the things I cut a lot on American Idol. Like opening the show, make it big, make it exciting, tell the story of, these kids coming up through this competition, trying to have success, right? You'll have those things, but then the nuances and the details, that's what's always difficult because you're never getting the same footage. You're never getting the same stories. And so you're trying to work through it. And the best piece of advice I think I've ever gotten in Hollywood was from this editor that had been, there for years. He has gray in his beard, gray in his hair, and he's a veteran. And what he told me is like, look, when you're editing, the first person you have to please is yourself. You need to be that audience member, and you need to tell the story that you're interested in, because once you trust that, you're going to be able to, I think, please a lot of people. And to me, like that's what I don't know. I've always gone to that piece of advice.
But how do you put it down? You talked about, and I think that's a unique point you made earlier when you said, I'm never confident. Or something like that. It's like you're constantly having that internal stress test, which I think where innovation and creativity actually comes from. Yeah. But how do you put it down? You're working on something for hours. You're deep into the big picture. You're then collapsing in on the details, and then it's like the painter who puts the brush down.
You know what I call it? So some producers and directors and editors have this problem. It's called Picasso syndrome. Do you know Pablo Picasso? Yeah. He was famous while he was still alive, one of the few artists that were. And sometimes he would go into a museum and with a paintbrush and paint on his paintings that were already framed in a museum. It's like Picasso syndrome. Like you got to know, like once it's in a place where other people enjoy it and like it, you're done. Because when you're an editor, you're hired to tell other people's stories. Like when I get hired by Netflix or Disney, like they have a brand, they have a look, they have a style. And once they're happy, I'm happy, So I always try to, put the client's needs first. And you get that first cut, but then it's like, all right, what's missing here? What do they want? And you really need to be a good steward and collaborator for the stories that that they want to tell, because ultimately that's whose, project it is.
Well, I think that's where the biggest source of burnout can be for startups, where they have a passion to solve a problem and they can't put it down, and they run relationships into the ground, maybe even their own team, maybe their family. But I think managing that balance between passion and obsession.
Yeah, there's an old saying that I'm sure we've all heard, which is don't let perfect is the enemy of good enough, or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's a very famous book called Good to Great. Right. Yeah, so you're constantly working in between there to build a great company, not a perfect company, but a great company or a great product. Right.
Yeah. I think, what's so funny. I just got off the phone with a friend before this show, and I'm not going to name names, but he worked with this very, very large celebrity, and, they did this movie together and it bombed pretty hard in the box office. And I asked him, I'm like, what happened? And he's like, you know what? He didn't surround himself with enough people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to surround yourself with founders. Like my co-founder is, my best friend, Mike Murillo. Right now, he's actually working on the intersection between YouTube and Hollywood. He's working for Mr. Beast on their Amazon project. And he's the one that's always putting me in check and saying, you know what? It's good enough. Mm-hmm. Just put it down. Let's push the product. Let's move on, because there is going to be time to iterate and fix things and work on those details. But right now, like, what stage are we in? Right now, we're building the framework for this technology to happen, So I think, and I see that all the time, what you just mentioned. I see other startups that are exactly in my space and they haven't launched anything. And I'm like, I want to use it. You know what I mean? I root for some of these other companies, because I think this space is big enough for a lot of people to exist. But yeah, it's just knowing when enough is enough. It's hard, but I think it's surrounding yourself.
I deserve to be here, and I'm worthy of being here. And whatever I don't know, I can learn.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mercedes, who's who's doing well in Canada. I'm hearing two things. One, you always need the devil's advocate in the room, right? To say, hey, this is not that way; it's this way, or no, let's not keep going. Let's stop. You need that counter individual, and then you need to be a little bit messy, it sounds like.
I want to actually ask Jason, because you're in an environment where that could be detrimental, because when it comes to, interconnected systems, drones and cars, this is a technology that, people's lives could be on the line.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you draw the line, because sometimes, perfect is what you want to achieve in that kind of, sense. No one would die if there was a bug in my system, right? But in your case, stakes are higher.
Yeah, I always tell folks, it took us 125, 140 years to get to this point in vehicles.
Yeah.
Right? So what works very well now is still very imperfect. I think technology will get us closer to that edge of perfection. But you got to test in order to get there, right?
Fail fast.
Yeah, you have to fail. And that's why there's so many people, I think, focusing on this challenge, because it has a lot of fail points.
Yeah.
But, this isn't a, 5 to 10 year vision. This is a 30 to 50 year vision around connected mobility. And there will be a lot of hiccups in the road. We've seen a lot of them already, right? You've seen scooters and e-bikes and all of these different transportation modes coming up. And, sometimes you might see a scooter laying down on the ground. Like, why is that in the middle of the road? Right. So I think we have to embrace the imperfections.
Yeah, I love it. So Jason, let me ask you, kind of along the same themes of startups, there's going to be a lot of pivoting going on. Does a founder, do you feel in the future, as you start getting more and more, a bigger deal flow and these companies coming at you, and you're going to get a lot of attention from this event you got going on? And tell me the name of the event again.
It's a connected mobility series, and this is the future of transportation.
So it's going to be a series. You're going to do this over and over again. How often are you going to do this?
Hopefully once a quarter. I'll have to ask Anthony, how much he can take.
Jason of Shiver. I love it, Jason.
Right. But I think 4 times a year should be enough.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going to have these companies coming at you, pitching. So taking the mindset of the company that's coming at you, do they need to be in a state of perfection, or they just need to have this general idea that they're moving to? Because I'm anticipating a lot of companies needing to pivot.
Yeah. All companies should have some pivotability, adaptability in their platform. It should be embedded in their culture, right? Until you get to steady state, which shouldn't happen until you're 20 years into your company, right? So what I like to see is, if you think about things in binary, like ones and zeros or yes or no, I like companies and founders that come to me that already have a yes in terms of what generally they want to do, but that top 180 degrees of the circle has some movement, right? I don't want a company that's going 360 degrees trying to figure out what they're doing. I like for them to be kind of going in between a 45-degree angle. I know I'm kind of giving a visual, picture, right? To dial it in. So a company at the pre-seed stage should have a little bit more flexibility than a company at a series seed and a series A. And as you dial in, it's product market fit, right? Mm-hmm. As you're dialing in, you should be gaining all of the information, using it to kind of hone in on where your company really needs to be and your product needs to be.
I like that insight. Gasper, I want to kind of move towards you and where you are at now. We've talked a little bit about your experience. What's next for Novella? When can our listeners start to look for your product on the market? Because there may be people I like this, connect with you and learn.
The thing to do is actually probably our website, Novella, or look me up on LinkedIn. We'll probably get into the beta stage next year. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about that, it's my friends, I'm surrounded by people at Emmy Awards and Emmy Awards. So they're very, very particular, and they're not going to hold back. They're going to beat the program up. I think once they're happy where it's at them, we're going to start expanding and letting people and we definitely want to build in public as soon as possible. I think these applications, it caters to so many people. So many people want video editing. So many people want to create content right now, and they collaborate right now. So I think, once it gets to a state that we're happy with, we're going to send it out there, and people are going to start informing us where we should go next. Because these applications, just like you said, they're 10, 20-year projects. I was working on Adobe 1.5 as a kid. It's now 24.5. Wow. So these applications, you have to look at them as lifetime applications. It's like buying a house. You're going to live in it for a very long time. And we want to make sure that the customers have early access and they start informing some of the decisions. Because I'm very opinionated, but I also really want to hear their opinions as well and where we should take the product.
This isn't a I can't put the paintbrush down moment, is it? It's
No. It's more just like, once we get it to where you could create something from start to finish and have very little friction, that's when it'll be something.
Well, this is what I ask, and maybe this could be our last question because we got a couple minutes left. But investors are constantly asking, like, how fast are you going? How fast are you bringing this to market? But I mean, it's almost like you can't cook the steak too fast, right? You can't take it out of the oven too fast. And that sounds like what this situation is like, no, this needs to cook a little bit. Yeah. How do you kind of, I'll look to you, Jason. How do you determine a company that's kind of, not moving as quick as they should, and then a company that needs to kind of pace themselves a little bit? Is there kind of a balance with that?
I think there is, but I would say every company is different, just like every person is different. Mm-hmm. I want the founder to move at the pace that the founder is good at moving at, right? Yeah. It's, there's certain artists that release music every 5 years, and there's certain artists that you hear them on the radio every other day, right? Yeah. So we talked about founder market fit, product market fit. There's also investor founder fit, right? Mm-hmm. So I think different investors have different things that they look for. Yeah, for me, I like founders that are moving at a pace that is specific for their particular use case.
I'm glad we were able to talk about that really quick, because in my circles that comes up a lot. Yeah. And I just want founders to, put out a good product. Yes. Don't be sloppy. So I appreciate that. And you guys are going to come out right on time. I mean, you got a great product. Before we go, Jason, how can people get connected with you? Website, contact information?
Yeah, thank you. You can go to our website at www.amenti.vc, and you can email me there. Find me on, no, that's enough.
That's enough. Okay. All right. They're going to be beating down your door.
That's right.
All right, Gasper, how can people connect with you?
LinkedIn, Gasper Chiaramonte on LinkedIn, or Novella-AI.com is our website, and you could contact us through there as well.
Nice. Brian, did I cover everything?
You did. You've got a little bit of time left if you want it. You got about one more minute. I don't know if it matters.
Yeah, let's Anthony's been listening in the background. Anthony, talk a little bit about Shiver and what you got going next.
Anthony Gonzalez,
We can hear you.
co-founder of Shiver Events. Proud to be working with Jason on this upcoming series. But yeah, you can get a hold of me, Anthony Gonzalez, on LinkedIn or www.shiver, which is SHIVR, events.com. And we are creating experiences for the AI era. So we're lucky to be here in the Valley. Community is probably one of the most important assets you can have with your brand, and so we're helping bring that to fruition through event promotion and production.
And Anthony bought a big ticket to sit in the gallery too, by the way. So those of you who want to sit in the gallery, you can contact me about tickets. And we're sold out today too, by the way.
We can hook people up if they want to sit here in studio. In fact, anybody that wants to, please let us know.
Awesome. All right, Brian, I think we're out of here. I think we covered it all.
All right. Yeah, man, we can do that.
All right. I want to thank everybody for joining and listening to Silicon Valley Impact. Follow us on Spotify. We'll see you all next week.
That was great.